Microsoft, what did they do and why does it matter?
Why does it matter? I don't know. It was the Tavis moment of earnings. The Tavis, everybody knows, Travis Kelce, Taylor Swift. In case you didn't pay attention, it seems
By
to
the
be
way, I didn't notice it I didn't get it the first time, buddy. So
the Tavis moment of technology. It was the biggest quarterly result. Everybody's eyes were on it, and this was a mega week. It was a mega week. We saw Meta crush it. By the way, Meta crushed it because they fired a lot of people. I'm just being honest. I mean, and by the way, layoffs are abundant right now. So don't be surprised when any company is doing that. There's a lot going on. Anyways, but look, Microsoft is a combination. It's a juggernaut of all things. It's consumer, it's prosumer, it's enterprise, it's cloud, it's AI, it's PCs, it's software, it's applications. And so when you kind of want to get like a rounded out look at the market and its potential, there might not be a company that has a more holistic look, especially as it points to technology, than Microsoft. So everyone's eyes were on Microsoft. And of course, Google went the same day. We'll talk about them in a little bit. But the first and foremost to set the tone of whether or not things are looking bright, the economy's looking good. We had a Fed week. Were they going to cut rates? They didn't. Came down to what did Microsoft do? And Microsoft did fantastic. Now, again, beat, but a in-range guidance. And for whatever reason nowadays, apparently being in the range of what everybody expects isn't good enough. So after beating on the bottom and beating on the top, showing really good results, talking about 53,000 Azure customers, 30% growth of Azure, which again, we're going to talk all the different clouds today. The comparisons are becoming more and more difficult because of how the companies book cloud revenue. But 17.6% year-on-year growth, a $2.93 per share income, but yet people weren't happy. They still sold the stock. Why is that? Frankly, it's because one, there was a melt up. As we headed into the earnings right now, all the technology names were up bigly. Bigly is a word, by the way.
I've heard it a few times.
It was up bigly. I mean, and we'll talk about AMD. They were up like 20% in a month. Microsoft had reached all-time highs, $3 trillion market cap. So sometimes like, why did everyone sell? Well, it's because everybody bought into the earnings. I mean, over the last few quarters, if you haven't noticed a trend, it was kind of, it was sell the news. It was buy the rumor, sell the news. So everybody knew that they were going to do well. But unless you do a beat and some sort of mega raise, and you'll see that when you look at like Meta and Amazon, who's surprised a little bit, everything's kind of a beat and guide, and then people sell, taking some profits off the table. But let's talk a little bit more about the business. I mean, look, one of the numbers that I was most excited about last quarter was when Amy Hood talked about the 2% of Azure revenue being impacted by the company's generative AI technology and solutions. This quarter, I think they indicated something like 6%. So what we're seeing is in a very short order of time, the amount that AI is impacting cloud growth is going up in orders of magnitude. You're talking about 3 times order of magnitude quarter over quarter. When I joined CNBC and talked about it earlier this week, I was kind of previewing on this news that IBM came out with a similar number, that they doubled their generative AI and 5x their proof of concepts. So you see there was a lot of strength right now in AI across the portfolio. You also saw some strength in their PC business, Pat. You saw strength in their business apps. When I say strength, I'm talking double-digit growth in these different categories. And another thing which, Pat, was kind of interesting, he didn't give a number, but I like this one from Satya. He talked about they saw an increase in billion-dollar Azure commitments. I mean, think about that. Individual customers making billion-dollar commitments to spend with Azure. So overall, really strong quarter from Microsoft, Pat. It's the bellwether of tech right now. They are the $3 trillion plus juggernaut of the industry. And it seems that they're on a just absolute tear. And Satya's leadership has been really strong, but it seems that they're just so well positioned, so well diversified. The AI PC movement sits with them. OpenAI, they're getting it right. They're getting it early. Others are catching up, but then every time others catch up, Microsoft seems to have another turbo boost of acceleration in what it's doing, and it was indicated in this quarter's results.
Yeah, really good overview. I mean, it's funny, you can beat on EPS by almost 6% and it becomes a yawner. And yeah, I'm not confused. I know it's about the It's about the guide and everything. But I want to pull out some nuggets I thought were important. And it's interesting, Dan. We talked about this in our 2023 wrap and our predictions for 2024 that AI was going from kind of this NVIDIA, building stuff to actually enterprises using it. And the way that Satya talked about it was moving from talking about AI to applying AI. So I feel very much in alignment there. Some things that stood out for me: a third of the 53,000 Azure AI customers were brand new, and I think that was for the half. Half of Fortune 500 users are using Azure AI. They did come right out and say that they believe they gained market share, and who they gained that on, we will see. We're not the bean counters. I don't know if it's on AWS or Google, but it could be the smaller folks. A couple discussions that went on. You look at the questions that came up. It was on two things: the 6% AI lift for Azure, right? Like, how could that possibly be a bad thing? But they just couldn't quite understand that. And I'm trying to wonder, and it's always dangerous to think like Wall Street, but do they think that demand could go away over time, or that OpenAI, magically does something different? Because the in the Azure number is OpenAI, right? It's basically an IaaS and a PaaS customer. So I think it's positive. And the other thing, something about CapEx, like CapEx was going up, and they said it was a material increase to scale AI. To me, that's a bad thing if you can at least be margin neutral or improve your margins. Well, they came right out and said our gross margins are improving with AI, gross margins, and OpInc AI leverage, right? And if you look at those two things, I think that's huge. So if you're adding CapEx, but you can get a big OpInc leverage lift, and by the way, that's code for productivity increases. What do most people at Microsoft do all day? Well, the engineers code, and we've seen what you can do with GitHub Copilot. In fact, GitHub Copilot, they have 1.3 million paid subscribers. That just blows me away. And you initially do a side eye on it because it's so big, but my son at college, and he's a data science major, and he uses, and everybody uses GitHub Copilot to help with coding. So pretty darn exciting there. We always talk about too, the best AI, you have to have the best data. And boom, Cosmo DB transactions up 42%, Fabric data up 46%. That is just amazing, right? So yeah, things are coming in line. I'm gonna end on PC and Windows. Satya came out and said in 2024, AI will become a first-class part of every PC. And I think we're going to see some serious action hitting in the middle. I did a panel at CES with Intel, and Pavan, who runs engineering across Surface and Windows, basically said, we are re-architecting the operating system, and I'm paraphrasing him, to deliver AI capabilities. I think it's going to be exciting, and I'm really glad that Microsoft brought it up.